Hey, Late Fees besties! The No More Late Fees podcast is now available on Patreon. Subscribe to receive exclusive content including Ask Me Anythings, playlists, live streams, bonus clips, and more. Check us out at patreon.com/no more late fees.
Welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Jackie. And we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of the best and worst movies from the late 90s and early 2000s. This week, we are covering the 2000 movie Love and Basketball with guests Bria and Simone of the Roll Call podcast. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
We're so excited about this one.
Yes.
Well, Love and Basketball takes place in the late 80s with Monica and Quincy, who are two childhood best friends who both aspire to be professional basketball players. Quincy, whose father Zeke plays for the Los Angeles Clippers, is a natural talent, and Monica is ferociously competitive and sometimes overly emotional, man speak, on the court. Over the years, the two begin to fall for each other, but their separate paths to basketball stardom threaten to pull them apart. The movie stars Omar Epps, Sanaa Lathan, Kyla Pratt, Alfre Woodard, Dennis Haysbert, Regina Hall, and Debbi Morgan. The movie was written and directed by Gina Prince-Bythewood, and you can watch it on HBO Max. But before we start, let's get into our ratings rewind.
So you know the drill. Before we get into the movie, we'll reveal the rating our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. But at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial rating. Our scale consists of would buy it again,
The best, would play on repeat,
5-day rental,
would watch again,
2-day rental,
okay, but nothing to write home about,
and same-day rental.
dumpster fire, trash. So ladies, I'll start with you, Simone. What would you give Love and Basketball your Y2K rating?
My Y2K rating for this one would be a 5-day rental. I would watch it again. Absolutely. This one was, we'll get into this later on in the show, and I do not mind embarrassing myself at all because I'm a middle school teacher. I do it every damn day, so I'm really good at it. But I had a real sexual awakening with this movie. And so for me, my Y2K self would absolutely give this a 5-day rental.
And Bria, what about you?
Mine is going to be, Mom, you need to buy this movie. Need a copy. Make it happen.
Jackie?
I remember watching it when I worked at Blockbuster, but I only watched it the one time. So I'm going to give it a 2-day rental for my Y2K self because I had only watched it that one time.
For me, I was in college. I was at a Black college. And then this movie came out. Because like, if I really think about it, there's only maybe a handful of like romance Black love movies that I really loved. A lot of them came out when I was younger and I didn't understand, but this came out right when I was in the midst of like having my own real life love experiences. So it's a would buy it again. Absolutely love this movie. So yeah. When I was watching it, my mom actually walked in and said, "Oh, I was just watching that yesterday." So it's a family thing here. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, after we watched it, it was on VH1 and I was like, oh my God. Like, I love when that happens after we've watched something because I'm like, we on to something.
It's one of my sister-in-law's favorite movies. And so she pulled out her DVD and we watched it on DVD last night.
Way
and
to go,
Ken
Val.
right? He wasn't playing. And Ken had never seen it. And so we waited we watched it super late because he was doing other stuff, but we all three sat around and watched it together, and she would be like, pay attention to this part. It's important. We were like, yes, ma'am.
So this movie starts off,
first quarter 1981.
Yes. Starts in 1981. You see the moving trucks, and Quincy is playing basketball with his two loser friends, and they and they see another kid come over, and they're, Quincy's a little surprised because he's already told his friends that there's a new girl moving into the neighborhood. And then the kid comes and's like wanting to play ball. They say sure, and then ha, shrieked you hoes, I'm a girl. She pulls her hat off, and we are introduced to Monica, who loves to ball. And
I love that the first question they asked was, are you nice? Yeah, you can play.
when they asked if she was nice, though, like, they really meant, does she have skills on the court? And I think when I saw it originally, because sports, I was like, oh, that's cool that they want to know she's a ninth person. Now I understand that's not exactly what they were saying.
Yeah, she got the skills.
She does. She is hooping and making shots. I'm trying to use the correct terminology. This is why I love this movie, because it integrates sports but has a romantic tie into it, so I don't feel like super dumb that I don't know what's going on in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Quincy's toxic masculinity kicks in because she's hooping and she's winning, and he don't like that. So what does he do? He pushes her.
Yeah.
Which I really like that they made this whole scene to explain Sanaa Lathan's real life scar on her face. So she has to go get bandaged up at home, and then you're introduced to her mom, her dad, and her sister, who are played by Alfre Woodard, Regina Hall, which, by the way, Sanaa Lathan and Regina Hall are best friends in real life. And they've been in multiple movies together.
Yeah.
So she's coming in, her mom's fussing at her because she's rough, and her mom is quite prissy, and that's not how young ladies behave. We see the family dynamic. You also see on the Quincy side, you go back to his house, and he is drawing a sorry card to Monica, which I'm sure his mom made him do. We also see that his mom has a nice trick of buying store-bought cake and presenting it as if she baked it. And then you see his family dynamic, which is his dad, who's a Clippers player, and his mom, who seems to be a housewife as well. But the styles of the contrast of the homes and how they're decorated and the moms show you just the differences in how different these families are. You could tell that the other family for Monica is just a little bit more of the nuclear, very traditional, while on Quincy's side, it's more modern, cool vibes going on over there.
Rich.
Yeah, they're both rich. They live in Baldwin Hills, which we all know is the Black Beverly Hills. Yeah. So very rich.
And in this dialogue, or I guess it's coming up. Oh, when he brings the cake to her in the apology note, he says he wants to be number 22 because his dad's number 22, and she says, I want to be number 32 like Magic Johnson.
I love that scene when they're in the kitchen and they are just the kids are like, I could do karate like ISIS,
it's so innocent. It's just typical kid conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Flirting at its purest form.
And so they're just like talking, and then eventually they, Quincy and his mom go home. The dad has said he has a meeting, which is important for us later. And then you see again the dynamic of Quincy looking at across over to Monica's house, and her sister's braiding her hair, and he's kind of looking at her, and the dad comes home, and his parents are like, obviously, I'm guessing fooling around or joking or
That's
doing
what
the
I
nasty.
said.
Yeah.
But he seems kind of happy because, they're happy.
Yeah.
Then Monica's mom is like, I found the dresses you tried to hide from me. And her sister's doing her hair. And just like for me to see just the normal, it being normal to do the very everyday things that a Black family would do in their home. A girl just sitting there tender-headed because I was getting her hair done. All those things just felt really nice to see on the big screen in a movie. Next day, she has to wear the dress. She's walking to school. She meets up with Quincy, and now he wants her to be his girl. And I think this scene is funny, but when I found out that the two stars, Kyla Pratt, and the little boy who played Quincy, I'm just going to call it that because I don't know who he is, and that's all that matters. She agrees. She's like, well, what do I have to do? And he's like, just like be together, and we have to kiss. And so they go in the little bushes to kiss. Apparently the director, this was pulling from her real life, and that's how her first kiss happened. He counts to 5 seconds. The two actors could not get this done in rehearsal at all. They could not stop laughing. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Was it their first kiss? Do
Probably.
we know?
Probably.
Yeah, because this was like young Kyla Pratt.
Yeah.
And a full 5 seconds, like a full 5 Mississippis of seconds, is a long time. Not like a 1, 2, 3, 4. Like it's long.
It's a long time.
Yeah, that's commitment.
And I love how his rationale is, since you're my girl, you have to ride on my bike. She's like, I have my own bike.
Back with the toxic masculinity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does pull at the dynamics of that. What does it mean to have your own identity as a woman, to try to have, self-reliance and independence, but also be in a relationship? And I think this movie does a really good job of showing the struggles. I don't know if how it ends necessarily is the best, but I think for a lot of Black women who have to learn to be independent. The whole relationship thing isn't always the easiest kind of thing to navigate. And so you're taught to be so independent, but then you get into a relationship and you have no idea how you're supposed to navigate that when you're told to only rely on yourself. So it's just super, super difficult. And I think Monica definitely goes through that because she is very strong, and she's seen her mom, who is like the complete opposite of that. So,
yeah, I was just going to say that, like, when this is jumping ahead, but like, the dynamic between her and her mom, I feel like she's almost like, I don't want to be like my mom in a way.
Yeah.
And so that probably really impacts like her journey of like, I got to go and get it, and her whole dream of being the first female in the NBA, like that's like absurd, but like she's so like convinced throughout the movie, like that's her goal.
And I like how they get in an argument, and then she says, your dad plays for the worst team in the NBA. Big head.
Hey. That had to be like the shortest relationship ever, but that was what it was like when we were young.
And now it's the second quarter in 1988.
And can we talk about this movie's soundtrack?
Oh my God, so yes, good. I'm prepared.
Yes. Yes. And I'm prepared to listen to Bria talk about it, because that was we watched this movie together, and I have a lot of notes separately about my experience watching it with her and experience just of the movie. But that was one thing we definitely noted. We're like, this, like, I would buy this soundtrack. This is a bop of a soundtrack. It's good.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to note too, like Jackie said, like this movie being broken up in quarters is so like
so good.
Yes, like Gina Prince-Bythewood, like yes, genius.
Especially for the podcast, I was like, oh, I can really take notes. I know exactly where I am.
Yes.
So we're in the second quarter. We are at, I believe we're at Quincy's game.
Yes. I
What?
Shazammed this song.
And
And you know who sings it?
Oh, I wrote this. Hold on. I wrote this because we've had, MC Light sings this song. And
I was like, ooh, I'm not gonna fuck that up again. MC Light, not Mick Light. MC Light.
I mean, MC Light as a Rock, like that is such a poignant like song to start off the next quarter with, like especially with Monica playing basketball. Like it just like you're like, yeah, like as a little girl. like
so Monica's game is first, right? And
Yes,
then Quincy's
so,
game.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that they do this because it shows just the differences in their game, the differences in support.
Yeah.
Because, especially if you are a female and you ever played sports growing up at the high school or collegiate level, disparities between the two just like are ridiculous. The funding, the amount of people that come to the games. It sucks.
The facilities, the
the funny, and the cheer team, and at like the squad that follows both games. I definitely noted that too, and I like how they left that in. It's definitely a commentary on how both like male sports and female sports are treated and viewed.
So we see, Quincy at his game, he's the star. After we see Monica in her game, and her dad is there, of course, and she gets heated and she is pissed, and she, there's a scout in the audience as well. She's not doing great at all.
Pressure is on.
Yeah.
The pressure is really, really bad for her. I'm trying to remember if she played 2 games or 1 game, but I think it's the first game she doesn't do well.
Yeah.
She loses the game.
Or is this where she got pulled out?
Yeah, she gets pulled out.
Yeah.
She's pissed.
Because there's a scout there, and that's like her ticket to like, it's a UCLA scout. And so she knows like how important it is for her to perform, and she gets pulled out of the game for a technical foul.
But I think it's a really good thing that she brings this up in the movie, that if a guy did half of the stuff she does on the court, she wouldn't get into trouble. She wouldn't get a foul. It would be like
you get
normal.
praised and like, oh yeah, that's your passion showing.
Right.
You're an aggressive, but in a good way.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, you're emotional because you're a woman.
That's what they kept telling her. You have to not be less emotional. But when a guy does it, it's just like, oh, you need to chill, or maybe a little aggressive. But it's just the words. Words matter.
Or like he wants to win. What do you expect from him? And
he
could act like that's another human being. I don't know.
She goes to Quincy's game. One of the girls in the bleachers sneaks over to her and says, hey girl, like they're friends, but they're not friends. We all speak girl here. It's Gabrielle Union, which love to see her. And she has a wonderful note that she's written to give to Quincy. And since Monica is friends with him and lives next door, and she feels like not even a threat, she's going to give this note to her to give to Quincy. So
side note, Gabrielle Union is now married to a NBA player, Dwayne Wade.
Yes.
Cool. And wasn't she also considered for Monica's role too?
She was.
She did. She did audition.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, she wasn't considered. She auditioned, but they were
Oh,
like,
okay.
you don't look like you play basketball, which I think she actually did. So
Yeah. She looked
Yeah.
pretty, she had some good guns in Bring It On. So
yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
she has a very athletic build.
She's
So
super
Yeah.
She
athletic.
does.
Even in like the later years on her Instagram, like she's put on a Clover's outfit. And I'm like, damn, you look
Yeah.
like you did 20 years ago.
Right.
Fuck. Like she's still super athletic and in shape.
yeah,
She
blacks
looks
don't
good.
crack, baby.
Oh. So after Quincy's game, she asks him for a ride, pretty much gives him a huge like take me home, and they have their banter. You start to see again, they still have that banter going on. I also like that when she was at her game, he watched, but as soon as she like lost her shit, he like deuced out or whatever. But you can tell like he comes to her games, which I thought was cool. And then they ride home. You see they're riding through Baldwin Hills, and she has the note, and she's gonna open the note and read it to him. And they, just talking about like how, oh, you mean the girl with the big titties? And she's just like, gross.
Yes, I mean that whole interaction is like so interesting and funny. And then when he like is like, well, are you gonna go to the dance? Like, who are you going with, Spalding? Like, that is such a line that sticks in your head, because she's like, Spalding, and it's like the basketball because she's so in love with playing basketball. And I think it's interesting too, because he's like this superstar athlete, and his love, I mean, his love for basketball is there, but I think in a different way.
Yeah,
and
his
Monica's
motivation.
is so Monica's is so intense, and I just really love playing, and like I want to be the best. And I feel like his is more so chasing after his dad and trying to be similar in under his dad's like legacy or umbrella of like, hey, like LeBron James, like his son plays basketball, and like you kind of like, oh well, of course his son's gonna be good, but you don't know. Like,
yeah.
But I do love that one of the dynamics of Quincy's relationship with his dad wants him to play basketball, but cares more about him getting an education.
Yeah.
And pushes that quite a bit. And Quincy's not quite hearing it because he idolizes his dad and just wants to be like his dad.
Yeah.
I think his dad probably sees how hard it is to be a professional athlete and not be the Magic Johnson. He's not a superstar. He's just one of the players on the team.
Yeah.
So,
and Quincy also tells her, that's why you won't get recruited, your bad attitude.
Yeah, because she has not gotten recruited yet. Quincy has gotten recruited by a million different schools. It's just deciding which one he wants to go to.
Which is usually a guy's choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she gets home, and her sister is doing her hair again, getting ready for another game, and pretty much says like, are you going to go to the spring dance or whatever? And she's like, I'm not interested in this stuff. Like, I don't have anyone. Who am I supposed to go with? And her sister, being the queen that she is, says, don't worry, I got you. You just worry about your game, and I'm going to get you a date. I wish my sister would give me that date, because
I just want to say too, when we were watching this, Simone was like, wait, and she realized that it was Regina Hall. And I think she's so young and she looks so different than when like these two come like scream and stuff like that she's kind of almost recognizable. But I'm just like sitting there like, yeah.
I had a lot of those moments, and I have a lot. I was like, oh, that's the guy from the State Farm or the Allstate commercials.
Yes!
Like, you're in good hands. I feel like and I mean, I'm embarrassed to say, but it's also a good awakening of these were not a lot of the movies that I grew up watching, like unlike Bria. And I think it was, going forward with our show and our podcast, I was like, damn, I really need to watch like more movies with more like folks of color, because I just, from like a cultural understanding, I would just need to educate myself more and verse myself in like more actors and actresses. But yeah, I had a lot of those moments of like, oh.
Back to what you were saying, Simone, it's just really interesting that like some of these movies made like a ton of money, but they're not necessarily mainstream in the sense that like a lot of white people have seen some of these Black films. And so in the Black community, we always say that some people are Black famous.
Yeah.
And
Bria says that a lot.
And like a lot of people, like Alfre Woodard is to us what you would, I don't even want to compare her to Meryl Streep because I hate that shit.
Oh my God, that's who I thought of.
Yeah,
so,
but like in the Black community, that is top tier. She is a wonderful actress. So like very popular in the Black community, but mainstream appeal where she's crossed over into other movies that she's recognizable, but not the same feeling that she has like in the Black community. Same with Sanaa Lathan. Like she is our like one of our Julia Roberts, our America's Sweethearts, situation. But it's just interesting. Like it's like a whole other kind of Hollywood. Black Hollywood is completely separate, which sucks, Debbi Union has been in everything. She has done a great job, but she's, still not considered in the same way that like, Cameron Diaz or Drew Barrymore would be,
Yeah. So now we are seeing Dad is getting home late at Quincy's house and Mom's not having it. She's like, I want you home. He's like, I'm working. So they get into it and then he insults her. He's like, oh, I got to keep your fine ass in Gucci and gold.
She showed him Gucci and gold. She threw all that shit at him.
I was like, is this the OG glimpse of like Basketball Wives?
Which I love Debbi Morgan. She is an amazing actress, another character actress that you've probably seen her, but not sure where she comes from. She's also soap opera royalty. I've said it many times because it's the second time she's been in one of the movies we've done. But yeah, they start fighting and then you see Quincy like do what seems to be like a routine. He climbs out of his bedroom window and goes over to Monica's house, and she throws him a pillow, throws him a blanket, and it just seems like normal, which is sad.
I would just like to point out she's a deep sleeper because it took a hot minute for her to like
Bria, you said that you're like that took like several seconds to like
I would have been startled as hell. I would have been like, oh my God. I'm like, God, it's Quincy. Okay.
Yeah. So that probably like as viewers lets us know that this is something that is routine. Because at this point, Quincy's dad wasn't playing for the Clippers anymore, but he was like a manager or owner of a basketball team, correct?
He was doing some. I think he was.
I feel like he might have been like a sportscaster or something.
Something.
Did he say he was a recruiter?
Yes. I think he was doing some.
I'll give you a confident yes on that one.
He was
absolutely.
I'm not sure, but he was doing something.
Yeah, something in like the sports arena.
Yeah. He had a solid job.
And a traveling one.
A traveling one at that. Excuses for his, philandering ways. So, and now we're at a high school dance in the early 90s and or late 80s.
I think late 80s. Yeah.
Late 80s. Yeah.
Well, we see her getting ready and her mom is beyond thrilled that she's going to a dance.
Wearing the
makeover.
Yeah, she got her. She gets to wear grandma's pearls.
Yeah.
It's a big moment in any girl's life, getting to wear grandma's pearls.
Yeah. I just want to say though that she lost the game before the dance. So she was like really like, I don't want to fucking go to this dance.
Yeah.
Like,
there were recruiters for USC in the stands. And I love that scene. Sorry if we have to back up a little bit, but I love that scene because as she's playing basketball, you're in her head and it's from her perspective. And it's so stressful. I'm stressed with Monica. I'm like, okay, okay, we all left. Okay, yes, watch the ball. Yeah, we got to get it. I felt like I was her. So I just thought that was a great scene.
I thought that was just from a cinematic standpoint, like the voiceover, and you really see her point of view, and like kind of that she's overthinking stuff instead of just letting her talent shine through, because she's so hyper focused on, I have to do well, I have to get recruited so that I can fulfill my dream type thing.
And that's so true to sports too. Like, I don't think I've seen another sports movie where they have this POV and this narration aspect. And I think like that was genius of Gina Prince-Bythewood to do that way.
And I think it's a perspective that I don't want to sound like biased from a gender perspective, but I think that's why it's so important that we have more female perspectives, because I think men feel it, but it's not something that they're allowed to actually,
and female directors to bring it to life too.
Yeah, because I think guys, for them, a lot of it is like kind of like Quincy. It's like he's like the most popular guy. He's getting dapped up even at Monica's game,
right.
Like he's the big man on campus. And that aspect is what appeals most to them. But like for women, it's like about like the achievement and like, I've got to do this because I have this goal and I want to be able to do this or this. And so it's very much in our heads, whereas guys like, as long as I'm getting like girls' phone numbers and stuff, who cares? Like
but it's also, I think, when you talk about toxic masculinity or just the patriarchy in general, whenever you have any of those systems, it ends up hurting the people that it benefits in the same way. Because somebody like Quincy, who seems like he has it all together, who has all this great stuff, he feels like he can't express that he's sad or upset or scared or nervous or any of those other things that are deemed as weak. And I think it's amplified to the up-team power when it comes to Black men, especially.
Yes, absolutely.
Because in our community, there's not a lot of space for Black men or women to be able to just
be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I think we start to see that more when we get for him in third quarter.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's just, there's so many dynamics that I did not see in this movie when I was younger. I love seeing it now.
Yeah. And you see in the third quarter how it, like you said, it plays against him that he's not able to, let those things out, and to the detriment of their relationship.
Yeah. So we're at the dance now, and that man her sister got for
is a man
at a school dance.
Yes. Let's take a moment for
he is a college man to be at a high school dance. So like someone needed to have ID'd that person.
Yes. This shows you how much Quincy is in Monica's head, because when I tell you the grinding that I would have done of this man.
I mean, in the scheme of things, Boris Kojo is the snack over Omar Epps. I'm sorry, but he just is. And the man still is fine, just like Morris Chestnut. Like, it's
freaking delicious. His wife is a lucky
oh my God. Yes.
So they get to the dance, and of course you can't have like some sort of romantic movie or a rom-com without the reveal of a makeover.
Of course.
She got her kiss me moment.
Yeah.
I realized that she got a makeover moment. I mean, like, because it's not so blatant as like
Mhm.
those movies. Like, you're a nerd, take off your glasses, and we're gonna
Yeah.
Oh
make
my
you
God, you're a
cute.
whole different person now. You don't have your
Yeah.
glasses on.
Yeah.
But yeah, she got a makeup moment. She got the hot comb to the hair. She got a banging bodycon dress.
Oh
Like,
gosh, that dress was beautiful.
it
She looked
was so
gorgeous
good.
in it.
I love when Boris takes, because we don't know what his Jason, I don't know what his name was on the show. Who cares?
The man.
Yes. When he takes off her jacket and the way he, like, okay, he takes the jacket off and then there's that, you know, that lean. He's like, Sam,
Yes.
Sam, waves all around. He was like, your sister did not lie. And I love when Quincy sees it from across the room. Now
Yes.
let's not forget that Gabrielle Union looked banging in her silver dress.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
But
Monica.
Q's inner dialogue was like, I fucked up.
But that was the crazy thing. Like, he's so like, that girl that he was with, I would have punched him in the face. You're not leaving me to go check out your neighbor. And like the way he did it, like she was just like fine with it. He could, I don't know. I just, that really irked my nerves. But I do love the line that Gabrielle Union gives, which is like, damn girl, I didn't know Nike made dresses. Ugh,
Yes, I love that line.
classic.
Oh my God. Can we talk about the music though in the
Yes.
dance scene? Because it is like epic New Jack swing. There's
Computer
Bobby Brown.
love.
Yes, there's Bobby Brown, there's Zapp and Roger, like there's guys later, but like there's just so much, like
So many good songs.
I wish I could have gone to dances in the 80s.
Yes.
Because
And one thing I love so much about movie dances in particular is how much they overdo it with the prop and set decoration with
Yes.
the curtain walls of like shiny shimmery
like tinsel stuff.
pencil,
Yeah.
so many balloons, like tables with tablecloths on them, the stereotypical bowl of punch. Like,
Yeah.
I love high school movies that show dances because I'm also the leadership teacher at my middle school. By nature, we throw dances. I'm gonna tell you, none of our dances look like that.
Nope.
But in my mind, that's what I'm picturing. But that like expectations versus reality thing, I was like, I could never.
So then the dance is over. Quincy sees Monica in her room, and I think he goes over to her room, or she calls him over. And
She gets the acceptance letter.
She
Yes.
she comes
Yeah.
home kind of late. She like sneaks in through the side
She
because her mom's
does.
waiting up for her, and she's like, I don't want to like have to talk about this night and like go
Yeah.
over it anymore.
Yeah.
Which would have been me. Mom, it was fine. Okay, good night.
There's no way I could have snuck into my house. My mother would have been up.
Same.
So yeah, so Quincy has she has her acceptance letter, and she calls him over. She wants him to help open it. She tells him about the date because she makes a joke, but obviously we know it's because she just wants to know what happened with him and
Yeah.
the girl. And he pretty much said he turned her down, and she was pretty upset. And then she's like, yeah, I kept kneeing the guy, and he finally got the clue. So it didn't work out for them either. He reads her acceptance letter. She's going to USC. He then divulges that he's going as well. And because, Quincy's so cool, he has to have a press conference about where he's going to school. So they're now both going to the same school. And I love that when he hugs her, she just kisses him. It's not like, Monica does not care.
Yeah.
Does not care. She kisses him, and then she's like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do it. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It was
and
like
I think
an
it's really
instinct kiss.
Yeah, and I like how when she's talking about like how her date ended, she's like, yeah, he was like trying to get on me, and I just kept thinking I couldn't remember how many rebounds I had. And then later
yeah.
on he goes, you had 4. So like he does care,
Yeah.
he does pay attention. Like
Panty droppers.
Did you guys see the deleted scene of her and Boris Cook Jason in the car together?
no.
I did.
Yeah, so she's definitely just talking about her stats. She's like, yeah, my free throw percentage went up, and that's like a 17% difference. And he's just like trying to kiss her and stuff. And then eventually he like puts down the seat and she just like falls back and she's like, whoa, and then it cuts. But I was like, that's kind of that would have been an interesting scene to leave in. But
Yeah.
I think them talking about it though is more interesting than leaving it in. But it was funny to actually see it happen.
Well, let's talk about the sex scene, because for me, seeing this movie, just them playing that Maxwell song in the background was just everything. And but also the way that they showed the scene was so great, because it was like the first time I saw a sex scene that felt real to me. Like, especially her being a virgin.
Innocent.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. I think we talked about Love and Basketball a little bit like in a pop culture segment, but like this is one of those sex scenes I feel like as a little kid you watch and you're like, that seems nice. Like I want it to happen to me that way. Like
I think it also showed that there was a little bit of pain, which they don't show us in these movies enough.
Yeah.
I also like that in the scene that you see him stop to get a condom, which
yes, and you see a physical condom too.
Yes.
You don't always see that.
Yeah,
I think that was really important, especially in the Black community, as we know that HIV and AIDS, we were coming off of it being as prevalent during the times, but still really important because there's such a high number in the African American and Latino community of us still getting it. So I think it's really great when you see mediums that actually make sure that they're telling you without telling you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
At one point, the movie did have an R rating, and the studio said that Monica should enjoy losing her virginity a bit more. So the director shot additional footage without any nudity, only for the MPAA, and only for the MPAA to come back and say it was now R rated because of that scene. But when Bythewood asked them about it, they said it was too real. So they edited again so young girls could see the movie.
I think that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and
that's
there's
some
lot
gross old men
that
looking at these movies.
That's some Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein shit. But I think like there's a lot about that sex scene that I think is still kind of Hollywood scripted to make people believe that it's beautiful. And, even though they did show pain and some realistic features and stuff, I still think that there was a lot about it that was very Hollywood scripted. I don't know if we're ever gonna see like a realistic sex scene ever. But that's very startling, that fact. That's gross.
We're in the third quarter now. It is freshman year 1988 to 89.
And we're seeing, I think the first thing we see is now Monica and Quincy are at USC together. I was about to say UCLA because that's where the director's actual alma mater is, and that's where she wanted them to go, essentially. But they were told no, and they were also told no by, I think, Stanford.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
How snooty, right?
It gets even snootier because I believe Stanford said that the movie characters did not exemplify a Stanford student.
I'm Black. I'm gonna say it. That's exactly what it was. So,
well, I do not care for that.
Yeah. So I was like, Sam. Okay.
Yeah.
But you see them in love, and I love the scene. It's fall. They're in their
behind you.
sweaters. It's behind me. They're so happy and in love, and they're, teasing each other. But they're also kind of talking about their very different experiences about being a part of the basketball programs, because Quincy seems kind of chill and she's like freaking the hell out. And she's not having the easiest time. Her coach is up her ass.
Yeah, she is.
She's up her ass. And then her teammates are like, kind of hazing her just a bit. They seem nice. They seem like they're not mean or whatever. But being in a male dominated sport, it's very competitive. They even said that all the girls on the team and just on the set, it felt very competitive because, that's how these girls roll. But I think it's just because they've worked so hard to just get this piece of pie that they have, and I totally get that.
So we see Sidra is like her frenemy on the team. Sidra's
pure enemy. There is no friends. Not while she's in the college. She just hates her.
Oh my gosh, she left the weights on her on the weight bench.
I would have died.
I was like, that's dangerous. You were there to spot her, and now you're not spotting, and she's stuck. I was like,
that's murder.
Yeah. It is murder.
Now it's a true crime podcast.
She was
premeditated.
Yeah, and then the rest of the girls were just laughing. I was like, Kiki, your ass over here and get these things off of me. That would have been so upset. Yeah, she's getting it on all ends. But I do love, like, after she's getting hazed and all this stuff, she goes to Quincy's room or her room. I'm not sure where they are at this time, but he's like icing her down, cuddling. He's listening to her. He's giving her advice. He's not being condescending, and then he like sprinkles a little bit of strip basketball, It's a perfect relationship.
I mean, that scene is like, I'm pretty sure other people probably saw that and recreated it there.
Oh my god.
Totally.
This hits right here. That whole scene, especially when she grabs like his balls to distract him and she is able to dunk and she's like, oh, I got you. Like, it's just, that dynamic is so cute that they're able to, like, from being kids and him pushing her, be like romantically competitive and a very nice end goal for both of them at the end.
And I think it's cool because their chemistry was amazing, the actors, and they were dating, but they didn't tell anybody. They were dating the whole time. Yeah, the director even said later, like, I'm really glad they didn't, because then it would have been like such a focus and I would have worried they would have broken up during, shooting. And then obviously they go, wow, wow. And
he made some other slam dunks.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. There's another scrimmage game and Monica tries her signature shot and it doesn't work out, and coach is not having it.
She gets it in, but she's posing, and her coach is like, if you like to pose so much, you go stand over there and pose. She gets ridiculed, but it's true. Like, when you're playing basketball, and I think when you're playing at any level, basketball, any game in high school, you've learned probably some bad habits. You've got to be conditioned. And she was a point guard. She was shooting all the time, which means that her defense game was lacking and she needed to learn some real skills. I just said a full ass sentence that made it sound like I knew basketball.
I'm proud of you.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
You fooled me, honestly. I was like, I'm giving you a confident yes on that one.
But that's so true. Like, when you're usually a scorer, that is your highlight. Like, you're like, I made that shit. And so a lot of times scorers get caught up in the celebration of it all. And so they miss out on getting back on defense sometimes. And that to their detriment can lead to like a fast break and the other team scoring. So it's like you were celebrating, but they just scored. So it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And when you get to that level, the collegiate level, the pace is faster. You have to really build up your endurance. You know, you score, but that happened already. You better get to the end of the end of the court or you're screwed. What she was.
Yeah.
So
just like with a lot of sports, like, you know, you go from being the best in your high school and like your school district, and then you go to college and like, okay, now I have to step up because now there's a bunch of us from all over the place. And it just keeps heightening every level you go through in professional sports. So it's like she was great in Crenshaw, but that's just not gonna fly. Like
yes, I could just see someone slamming the ball. You better take that shit back to Crenshaw.
And then in contrast, you see they're talking about Quincy, like the sportscasters are talking about him on TV. Like he's getting all this glory. He's big man on campus. Doesn't seem like he's putting in like extra effort. Like going out working out or whatever. Like she's doing all these scrimmages and stuff. You can kind of tell she's like totally exhausted. And then Sidra, where am I now? Oh, and then we see a conversation with Quincy and his dad where his dad kind of shows up unannounced and tells Quincy that his parents are splitting up because there's a lady claiming that Zeke, Quincy's dad, is fathered a child.
I don't know if they divorced just yet. I don't know. He really tries to skim over it when he tells Quincy. Like
I thought it was that they were in the process of like they were lawyering up and getting ready for a separation.
And I don't know if Quincy quite gets all of it. I think he thinks the family is going to stay together. I think his dad has put it in this, like, you know, that there's this woman lying on him, right? Not that I've been sleeping around and possibly, maybe, you know, he's like, this isn't true. And he gaslights Quincy when he's like, well, is it true? And he's like, how could you ask me that? Answer the damn question. You know? So then he goes to see his mom, and that scene is gut-wrenching.
I mean, homegirl is playing Marvin Gaye, and she is probably a few whiskeys or bourbons in to the night. And I mean, I felt for her then. And I think like it always hurts to see like your parents fall apart like that, and then to begin with, like one has fucked up in some way is just like weird. You're just like, shit, okay. Because like when she's like, no, like this isn't some bullshit, here's the test results.
I think she wasn't going to tell him. I think she was going to try to protect him from having to know what was going on. But then he kind of got in her face about like, we got to stand by dad. And she's like, I ain't standing by shit except the toilet to piss on his face and tell him to go kick rocks. Sorry, I've just made me so mad for her.
You better call Tyrone. Ain't staying here tonight. But
and so after that scene with his mom, we see another game and Sidra gets hurt. And so after the game, coach pulls Monica into her office and is like, hey, you can be, I don't know that.
No, she doesn't go into the office yet. She knows that she's going to be starting in the next game because Sidra is hurt. I think she pulls her into the office after the game that she does play and kills, you know, does well. And then she's like,
defense.
Then she's like, yes. Then she's like, okay, well, I want to switch things up. You can start in the next game or whatever, in a few games. And in between this game that she wins, she meets up with Quincy on the bleachers, and he's just, he's having a rough time. When we talked about his motivation for playing basketball was to be like his dad. What happens to your game? What happens to your mindset and your life when the motivation you're now seeing clear and has been pretty much lying to you and your mother this whole time?
Yeah.
I think he's defensive of his mother, but it's more about the dream is exposed and ruined for him now. And so he doesn't know what to do. And now he's going to start making choices that are less about him and more about almost taking a dig at his dad because he's hurt.
Yeah.
And he's trying to talk to, his girlfriend about this. And I rewatched this movie a few times back then, trying to figure out, okay, well, why is he so mad? Because I was with her.
Because she didn't say like, I gotta go. She was like, just come back to my dorm with me.
Yeah.
Like that's all she asked. She wasn't like, oh, I don't have time for this. She was just like, I'm gonna get in trouble if I'm out past 11 because I have curfew. Just come back with me and we can continue the conversation. But he wasn't having any of that.
Yeah. I feel like he knows who she is. He knows what she's about. And it's one of the things he loves about her. And if you're looking for this kiss my ass kind of girl who's going to feed your ego or whatever, stroke your ego, this is not the girl.
Yeah.
So he refuses to go back to the dorm with her. He doesn't even kiss her. She tries to like kiss him goodnight, and he was just like sitting there pissed off. And then this is the game where she plays
and she kills it.
And she kills
really
it
well.
Yeah.
It's so bittersweet. Like
and she uses her training that like the coach is kind of ingrained into her, and essentially has the forethought to have commit. I don't know.
She draws a charge.
Yeah, thank you.
She doesn't get pushed down.
Quincy wasn't at this game.
No.
Right? Which
was a first. Yeah. Which also shows that like when you're going through something, you can't be supported. Like I'm going through shit all the time and I'm going to your games. Like, so now when you're going through something, that support it's conditional now.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is when the coach is super happy. Like she saw the head and the heart. And so she pulls her into the office. Monica's like, I thought you didn't like me. Like you're always writing me. And essentially, the coach says, I'm not going to go horse for someone with no potential. So she sees the passion and the fire. She just wanted to make sure she was performing to her best ability. Yeah. And so she's super excited, like had this great chat with her coach. She gets to play center point. I wrote it down. And so she's hyped. She's going to a house party to meet Quincy. She's like on cloud 9 and she shows up and he's seemingly already drunk. He's drinking a beer
because he lost his game.
Yes.
Oh yes. He fumbled big time during his game and blew that bad boy. And I mean, you can only imagine the spotlight on him because it's probably televised or whatever. It's bigger, it's more prominent. More people on campus are more likely to go to that game than the girls. So he is like drowning his sorrow.
He is. And he's still pissed at Monica. And so he's like he's like grunting at her, like not even responding to anything she says. He walks outside to find the keg. And then Monica glances outside and he's like talking to another girl and he's like leaning into her and whispering in her ear. I'm like,
That's
Bitch, what you
bold.
doing?
Yeah.
I would have been quickly grinding on someone else. We go play games. We go play games. We can play games.
I mean, in my head, I'm like, you're not cute enough to be acting like this. Like, but I mean, when you in love, you in love. But like, if this was Boris Kojo, I would be like, oh, he's tripping. It's okay. Like, but Omar Epps, I'm just like, leave.
I feel like he looked really cute at the end when he had the facial hair.
Yeah.
But
I liked younger Quincy. The goatee threw me off. I was just like, not so much. Give me 80s like line part
lines
Quincy.
in his hair. Yeah, but he was tripping 100%. And when
she tries to approach him like, hey, you want to talk? Like, what's going on here? And she's like, fine, maybe I'll come by later. And he goes, nah, I got curfew, and like throws that back in her face. I'm like,
passive aggressive.
I can't. The drama.
And this is where, like, I mean, I know this is probably purposeful and intentional for this movie to take a turn. Obviously, we have conflict in a movie. That's what makes it exciting, and without conflict is what would be incredibly boring. But this is where the movie kind of takes a bit of a turn where I start to eye roll a lot more, just because it's like, really, he's gonna throw away like a damn good girlfriend over something she has no control over.
Yeah.
Like, and I found myself kind of huffing and puffing and eye rolling quite a bit at this point.
But it felt so realistic though. That's the sad part.
Oh, totally.
That's what broke my heart. Like, I was pissed when I saw this originally. I don't know if I was in the mindset of being like really angry. I was just like, oh, they need to be together. And I was just looking towards the end, like they're gonna be together. But now, adult Danielle, there would be no end of this movie. The end would be, I'm out with these boys in Spain and we having a good time. I'm not coming back to the States.
I mean, that was a mishap. I mean, when we watched it, I was like, I don't know why she's homesick. Like, I would have been living it up. It's
living La Vida Loca for this piece. There's no way.
Italy? No.
She was in Spain.
Sidra was in Italy.
Yes.
And she was in Spain. But yes, I would have been like traveling, seeing all the sights, the museums. Somebody would have been buying me dinner.
I would have been seeing the sights, if you know what I
mean. looking, sampling all the baguettes that Europe has to offer.
Getting a lot of tapas, you know.
Getting my S-car to go.
Oh shit. Like, I think that this like relationship though is so like in at this point is so stereotypical of what we see and may have experienced in high school and college, that like it will blow over the stupidest, dumbest things. And that's realistic because you don't have that mature high level thinking yet to be like, oh, you know what, maybe I should work on my own issues first and like work it out with my family, but not let that hinder with my relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And it, you know, for her, she didn't, and she says this later in the movie, she didn't know how to make space for what was happening with him and with her. But you know what? Like, she did the right thing because so many women do prioritize their relationships with their partners. And then they lose themselves. They lose their dreams. And that's usually what happens. They shrink themselves to fit for that person.
I'm so glad she didn't do that.
Yes.
Yes. And in general, like, she didn't change to be with Quincy even once, like, you know, they had their moment in high school. Like, in college, it would have been interesting. Well, not interesting, but it would have been kind of expected for her to kind of like girl up a little bit and stuff like that. And she was still the same, like, basketball is my life. I'm a baller.
Right.
Type of chick. And I just think that's true to like who she was in terms of not changing for him or dimming her light to be with him.
Exactly. And then the next scene,
Well, so Quincy goes back to his dorm room and dad's there again. And he's still maintaining kid ain't mine. And the lie detector test determined that was a lie. Quincy's buying the bullshit.
And Quincy's dad, you are the father.
Yes.
Oh.
And I just want to go back a moment too to the mom with like the cheaters receipts of the pictures, because it was giving very much like, okay, we followed him and we saw him go into this hotel room with this unidentified lady. Like, so yes, Mari cheaters all around. Dad, you are caught and you are still lying.
Yes.
To his face.
And then he finally is like, well, there's like lots of groupies around and like security keeps some out, but some make it to your door. Like, you still close the door on them because you're fucking married.
But what Quincy does, like his dad's talking the bullshit. He kicks him out. He tells him he's gonna go pro. He's leaving school, doing all these things really to hurt his dad, but he's hurting himself. And then you fast forward to the next day, he's ironing, which I'll tell you what, that's an aphrodisiac for me. You iron? Okay. Let me see you do the collar. Let me see.
You know, the 80s were different though. Like, I doubt most men iron stuff now.
If you iron, hit me up. I'm available. I like
that's what she's missing in her life is someone to iron for.
If you like to fold clothes, be real good.
Oh yeah, someone played J. Cole folding clothes for her.
So he's ironing. Here comes Monica, and he goes, "Hey, baby," and you know everything seems fine. Everything seems fine.
It was not.
It was not fine. And then here comes Trick. And now this actress who plays this very small role, I already had like I'ma fight you vibes, because she plays the hot ass cousin in Players Club who sleeps with her cousin's boyfriend. And so she was already giving me skank vibes. I was like, oh, hell no, we ain't taking this, are we, Monica? We about to beat this ass.
So yeah, and he's just like, she's like, who the hell is this? And she's like, oh, that's Carrie. And,
in front of your homeboys, you trying to embarrass me? See, she was so classy, let me tell you, because they would have had to call 911. I'd have been fucking up that whole house.
I would have been benched. Like, there's no, well, no, I don't know. I feel like I'm like a cool-headed angry. Like, I'm gonna get him back some other kind of way.
You're right. It just depends on the day.
Yeah,
but I am a vengeful bitch, so I might not do something right then, but trust, I'd be
like
plotting.
when he got injured from the Lakers, I would have been like using up my phone minutes to be like, that's what you get.
Yeah. I would have sent a picture of my championship trophy. Hell yeah, there's no way. And so after this, like, Monica's really distraught, and what I really didn't like about this movie is that she didn't have, like, because she's so concerned with basketball, she didn't have a best friend or something. And I was surprised she didn't have a scene with like her sister. But she drives home to her person is her dad. Her dad is not home. She has an interaction with her mom that doesn't go well. Her mom is having one skewed view of something, and
her mom literally tells her, every time you lose you get this attitude, it's just a game. Like, her mom just immediately assumes it's about basketball. And so she's kind of like, fuck this shit, and she just leaves. Like,
but Monica automatically has an attitude towards her mom. So they're both having different conversations with each other, different issues with each other, and no one is really communicating, and it's quite sad, actually.
So
But you don't see her have like a full-on breakdown or cry. You could tell she's like upset. And then she drives back to her dorm. And then here comes Quincy's bitch ass again.
It ain't nothing but a thing.
No. Yeah. You lucky I'm not in my car anymore.
He took her to Burger King. What the big deal?
He took that hoe to Burger King.
as I normally would say, make it make sense.
I hope she got a souvenir cup or a Happy Meal watch.
Right?
I took her to Burger King. Get the fuck out of my face. Are you kidding me right now? But I do like also that there was nuances to them having this argument, and he went to like touch her shoulders, but then he like slyly kind of pushed back a little bit because he saw that there's these people walking by, and also the way that they were like, oh. He's like, I'm not trying to get the cops called on me tonight. So that was interesting.
They have a conversation where he's just like, I just wanted you to be there for me, and you chose basketball over me. And she's like, I shouldn't have to choose. I should be able to do both. And just not hearing anything she's saying. And she's like, I should be able to trust you, that even though we're like arguing, you're not going to go out and hit up the first girl that pays attention to you.
He pretty much calls her selfish and self-involved. And I think in some ways his points could have been valid if he had communicated them in different ways. It was more of a communication thing that they needed to work on with each other within their relationship. But he was too butthurt, and his pride was hurt more than anything. And she is ready and willing to move on and figure out. And when she says, what did I do wrong? Like, she is, that broke my heart.
She says, whatever we did, I can fix this, or whatever I did, I can fix this. And he's just like, I don't think so.
Yeah, he pretty much is like, oh, there's nothing to work out here.
Yeah.
That was trifling.
Yeah. And he's just like, I'm going pro and we're going to forget about us. And I'd still like to be friends.
It was like process overload. She's like, wait, like 1 second. It feels like 1 second ago we were here. And now it's just like, you're going to the NBA. You know, you're not even telling me like all the stuff that's really going on, and you're breaking up with me. Like, the fuck?
Yeah.
And the fact that sis still played basketball, I'm assuming graduated and then wound up going to play in Spain, is a miracle, because
she held it together so well. And we said this before, but I'm glad that they showed that she moved on past that piece in her life. I mean, eventually they get back together.
She does. She it's like she doesn't move on emotionally, but she just keeps moving. I guess is the best way.
Yeah, not even like she fully processes it, but just is like, all right, well, guess I'm gonna just go do like the other love of my life, which is basketball.
I don't know. Like, it just, the fact that there's been no communication, you broke up like that, and it's been 5 years. So we see her overseas. We see her about,
this
playing.
Is now the fourth quarter in 1993.
She's playing basketball overseas. She's about to play the championship. She's in Spain. As she's walking through about to go to the court, she sees her old frenemy, as Jackie called it. Now I can say they're frenemies, because before it was just pure like, I want to kill you. And so they start trash talking a little bit. They play, and then you see them.
Hold on. Before that, when they're establishing that they're in Barcelona, first off, I'm like taking notes. So I was looking down. Ken and Valerie are like, they're in France. I was like, but the writing on the posters is in Spanish. How are they in France?
And the music.
And I'm like, I don't understand. And they're like, no, it's in France. It's in France. And so Valerie rewinds it, and they're like, no, that you see, I think they said Notre Dame is in the establishing shot. So they rewind it and it's like big letters, Barcelona, Spain. I'm like, how'd y'all both miss that?
Well,
Spain.
the funny thing is the scenes were set in Barcelona and they were actually shot there because of thanks to Tyra Banks. So Virgin Atlantic said that they would pay for the flight tickets to film in Spain if Tyra Banks wore one of the uniforms of, one of their uniforms in her scenes in the movie, because she's a flight stewardess. So yes, they were in Barcelona. You can tell.
That is kind of boss negotiating there.
Yeah. But like when she's still kind of walking to the court, there's posters of her on the wall. Mm-hmm. There's little kids asking for autographs. And then an interesting comment from Ken, my husband, he's like, why'd that little girl pet her? I was like, because in other countries where they may not experience Black people, like they want to touch your skin, they want to touch your hair because you're such a nuance to them. I'm like, it's such a small detail, but I'm like, that's kind of a really important detail for her being international and how like other cultures are perceiving her.
Yeah.
Even though she's super famous and like.
I think that's one of the things that is something I didn't really think about when watching the movie, but it is something that's very real. And you brought up a good point, because when she says she's homesick, I think there's layers and nuances to that, because it's not necessarily just being home with her family, but it's homesick in the fact that when you're a fish out of water in another country, but then you're Black on top of it, and we very much like to have our communities and to have that camaraderie. And when you don't have that, it's very difficult. And so I think that's also what she missed. When she says homesick, she probably means that like this is extremely difficult.
To elaborate on what you were saying, like it's kind of emphasized when they're in the locker room and the coach is very passionately screaming at everyone to get them pumped up, I guess, or just to yell. And she literally has to turn to her teammate and say, what did he say? Like she doesn't even know the language. She's just there to do a job, to play ball. And the girl's like, he said to give the ball to you. Like, so it's just like, that is the only reason she is there, to play basketball well.
And just to think like, okay, so obviously in this movie, that WNBA, well, the WNBA was created at the last minute. They were supposed to have a different ending scene because the WNBA didn't exist when they wrote the script. But by the time the movie was ending, it existed. But for so many of these women who had such a passion for basketball, and probably started the same with Monica Quincy having that counterpart as male, they didn't get to live their dream, fulfill it all the way to the end, or even have a career that went that far, because that was the only option. You play in college, you're at the top of your career, and then you have nowhere to go except maybe the Olympics situation, or you're going overseas.
After the locker room scene, she walks out to get on the court, and then she sees Sidra in the hallway, and they're kind of like having that banter, and it's much more friendly than it was in college. And so they're kind of like joking about who's gonna win. And then the next scene is they're both at dinner, but Monica has that championship trophy at the table, sitting with them, third guest at the table.
That was funny.
They start talking about Sidra sees some foreign guys. I don't want to say I guess the Spanish guys. Yeah.
Spaniards.
Some fine men walk by, and she pretty much is asking Monica, like, what's that pool feeling like? And she's like, oh, I've been holding a torch for this loser no, she doesn't say it, but she's like, I haven't been doing anything. She's like, girl, you've been here for how many months and you haven't tasted the delicacies out here?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so she's like, I miss home and she's homesick. She doesn't like that she's playing games and her family can't be there rooting for her. Just, not what she pictured. And she thinks she's going to, go home.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the flip side, we see that Quincy has hurt himself in a game. We do see that I think we see it on the TV or something that's playing, that he is an alternate. He's not even at the, height. And so he's been playing for what, 4 years now versus, and he didn't graduate, I'm guessing. And he's an
Garbage
alternate.
time.
He's washed up.
Yeah. And he's playing for the Lakers, and you can see Kobe on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In that scene.
So he hurts himself, goes to the hospital. That's when the dad and the mom have their interaction, where she pretty much tells him it's the ACL. And even us, I don't know sports, know that if you tear your ACL, it's a wrap on your basketball career or any sport.
Back then, now it's a little better, but
so he does go to talk to Quincy, and the mom's like, he's not going to want to talk to you, whatever. But he still goes and tries, and I think they reach a common ground where he's just like, I've always just wanted your education to be the most important thing, and they're able to communicate a few things, like, you're not.
And he does say, like, you're a better ball player than I am.
Yeah.
And you have, you're really smart on top of it, and that's why I wanted you to get that education.
Right. And he's pretty much like, if you want to play ball, you'll do it. You can achieve anything if you want to do it. So that, I think, probably healed a lot of stuff that Quincy had.
Yeah. Sometimes that speech from your parents comes a little too late.
Yeah.
Like, now you tell me this after I hurt myself and I can't play in the NBA anymore. But I mean, better late than never, I guess.
But also, like, one of the things I've noticed, especially as I'm getting older, is that I feel like my parents, my family have told me certain things, and maybe they didn't say it the right way, but also I wasn't digesting it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't in the right mind. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't mature enough to, like, absorb it. So it does feel like it comes too late, but sometimes that's what growing pains are. You have to go through them. You're on your own.
Ooh, yeah. That's a word.
And then we see that Monica's back, and she's bringing flowers to see Quincy. And again, the tension is there still for them. You see the chemistry hasn't really gone anywhere. And they're dancing around their situation, He does say that he tried to call her a few times. The thing that irritates me about this whole thing is that Quincy never apologizes.
Yeah.
Agreed. So fucking stubborn.
Yeah.
So stubborn.
So he doesn't apologize, and they're good. And then all of a sudden, here comes Tyra Banks in her I just got off the plane being a stewardess, or what is it, flight attendant? What do we call them now? I want to say the right thing.
Flight attendant.
Yeah. She's walking in, and like the way. So I always ask myself with this scene, if she purposely ignored her, because she's right. How do you not see her?
Yeah.
She does not address Monica at all.
Yeah. Nope. I don't know. I feel like in a way she plays like this kind of ditzy, pretty obviously character that I want to say that it's not on purpose. And she just clearly is like clueless, because even like when she flashes, she's like, oh yeah, we're engaged. And she's like, look, like, who does that?
Yeah. I mean, it is very reminiscent to like Life Size, just kind of like a clueless little like ditzy, airy character.
Like so overcome with emotion because her fiance is in the hospital. She has like blinders on for everything else.
Yeah. She's like, you can't be sitting here. You got to get in the bed, silly, you know. But Monica does a horrible, horrible job when she finds out they're engaged, that she doesn't care. Her face told a million stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the other thing, like, how does Tyra's character not realize this?
Yeah. And how does Quincy not realize it? Because prior to, you know, the in basketball scene, they have a few other interactions, and he still like isn't acknowledging that like there might be some kind of feeling still there. And again, like an opportunity to apologize and be like, hey, look, I was an asshole when I broke up with you, and I think about that and I want to apologize. Like so many opportunities, but
yeah. And then, you know, she goes home and she has a real conversation with her mom, because after the hospital, and you know, their dynamic is so interesting. And it's funny because her mom is like, I know you've been embarrassed of me all these years because I just don't fit. Like, I'm not into sports. I think that's what she thinks it is.
I can't shoot a stupid jump shot.
Right. And then Monica actually explains what it is, which is that she just hasn't really felt supported this whole time. And, you know, she mentions that her mom hasn't been to many games, which also it mirrors the director's view situation with her own mother. She said her mom only came to like 2 or 3 games. And when she did come, she would be reading a book. So like I think writing this movie was very cathartic for her with her relationship with her mom. And then she kind of just like throws it out there that her mom kind of caters to her dad and is just like weak, and she just didn't want to be at all like that. And
her mom gave up on all her dreams.
When she had kids, right? Yeah.
I mean, she got slapped for a reason, because you say that.
I love at the beginning of this conversation where Monica says something, curses at her, and mom's just like, are they cursing the mamas in Spain?
And there's another deleted scene that I think kind of this is like the only one I saw that I would have maybe left in, because when she's in high school, she's like, I think getting ready to maybe go play a game, and she's in the kitchen and her mom's cooking dinner and stuff, and her mom's like, oh, you know, I did this, like, taste this, and she's like, well, you know, I'm about to leave, and her mom's just like, okay, like, and you can tell Monica wants some kind of like good luck, I hope you play well, something, and she's missing that from her mom. And in some ways I relate to that, because I feel like when you get a certain age with your parents, like, you become your own person, and it's no longer like, okay, I'm just your kid. Like, it's like you kind of have to like each other, because of like, I like you as a person now. And part of liking someone as a person is indulging in the weird shit your kids like, but maybe you don't like, and just supporting them in that way. And that kind of flips when your kids get older and your parents want you to do shit that they love to do. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. Why would I? We never did stuff together.
Right.
They're like, I just want you to spend time with me. And it's like, well, I mean, shit, I wanted you to spend time with me. You didn't come to my basketball games. So I think their dynamic is super realistic, and especially like when you don't necessarily have the same interest as each other.
Yeah, it's really hard. I feel like a lot of, especially mother-daughter relationships, can be very, very difficult, especially those teenage years when the hormones are ranging.
And Monica's approaching and like, you never supported me in like my basketball, and her mom's like, oh, you had your dad for that. And then her mom's like, well, what I do remember is the spring dance, and you were so pretty, and I know you didn't like it, but I remembered it. I remember giving you grandma's pearls. And so it's like this, they have very different experiences of Monica growing up.
Yeah. And I feel like I understand her mom's point of view of like, you know, that's something I remember, and I'm not completely like, I don't completely not remember stuff, but it's like you remember the thing that was aligned with what you're interested in versus what was aligned in what Monica, like what was important to her, which was basketball. And you totally missed that opportunity of like, she could give a shit about the spring dance besides like losing her virginity probably. And you missed that whole thing because you had neglected the other stuff. I'm sure she probably would have had like a conversation with her mom after that if she felt close enough, like she cared enough to be like, you know, me and Quincy.
Right.
Wow.
So the next scene is Monica. She's kind of taking things off of her walls. Did she move back home essentially?
Yeah, she moved back home. She's working at her dad's bank. Nepotism in real life, nepotism in fake life.
Oh yeah, I mean, going back to your childhood home, moving back into your childhood bedroom, and being, it's always, I think it's something that a lot of folks can relate to. It's
nobody talks about that, and I know for sure it's like one of the hardest things ever. Like
it's
if you went away to school and you come back,
and your pride.
So she talked to the mom.
So we see her coming
back from work.
She like can barely walk in her little chunky heels, so she takes her heels off. Q is home getting ready for his wedding, which is 2 weeks from then. And so he kind of catches up with her and he's like, sorry, I didn't send an invite, but you're like welcome or whatever. And she's like, nah, that's all right. And so he tells her, I'm going back to school. So good on him.
Yeah. But he hasn't told his fiance yet. So you already know he still feels more comfortable with Monica than his own lady. Tragic.
That's because Kyra's probably a gold digger. Like, go back to school. You're not going to be in the NBA anymore.
And then he said, you traded in your Nikes for shoes you can barely walk in. And I've never known anyone who loved ball more than you. Like, why are you giving up on your dream?
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite things about this scene is Mom
in the bushes, straight on.
I never noticed that. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Yeah, she's just straight up looking around.
Just
watching. Oh, okay. Still got chemistry. And then
I'm just vacuuming.
Yeah.
It's like that meme you see where it's like when your neighbors are starting drama and you're outside like doing some outside chore that doesn't make sense, like vacuuming your lawn.
Yeah. Windexing the bushes.
Yes.
So her mom's out there, and then you see another scene where it's Monica, her sister, with her brand new baby, a white looking baby, but I digress. And their mom, and her sister and the baby step out for a second, and then her mom just says, remember when I told you that Quincy could do better? I met you. And so then we fast forward, it's nighttime. You see Monica creeping, just like, I guess it's a family trait, creeping, looking at Quincy with his bae. She's taken stuff out of his room, I guess, to wherever they're going to move to. I guess she goes home. I'm confused by this because didn't he just say that maybe this scene happened before when she was cleaning her room? Because I could have swore he said that the girl was out of town.
No, so I think this happens, but it's like separate. So she sees that, and then later he's back because
nighttime.
she's out of town, and he's like, I
Gotcha.
figure I'll spend some time with my mom before the
Right.
wedding and stuff.
So does she go over to his window and like ask to talk to him?
Yeah.
She
And
wakes
then-
him up this time.
Yeah. And then she lays it out on the table that she like wants him back, and she can't. Oh, the line is so perfect.
Oh yes, please say it.
It's been 5 years, and I can't say it because I don't know if I memorized it. Did you memorize it? It's been 5 years, and I can't get that shit.
I feel like it's like, I've loved you since I was 11, and
Thank
I
you.
can't let that shit go, or something like that.
I'm gonna find it because it's so
And
good.
she also says, you asked me what was missing from basketball, and you were missing.
Oh, but you've been playing for 4 years. How much fun was the game without him if you were able to play for 4 years? I'm just saying.
Yeah, so the quote is, I've been in love with you since I was 11, and the shit won't go away. So I was close.
I feel that to the core of my existence. I wish I could
That
shake
hit
a
you.
few people. Yeah. But I won't go back.
This asshole, you think the sun rises and sets on your ass?
Why?
Oh my
But I
God.
like her, her rebuttal, which is, it must be true, because why are you so mad though? Why you pressed?
Like, yes, I am the main character in my movie. Shit.
Oh,
it
yeah.
does.
And
So then she says, essentially, let's play a game of one-on-one for your heart.
yeah, because he's like, for what? And she's like, your heart. And okay. He could have said no, one. But you're gonna play this one-on-one game with me, and I guess you're not in love with me. This dude was playing like Kobe when he was on trial. Like, why are you playing this hard?
Yeah, I've seen this on Black Twitter where they're just like, this is not a love story, okay? Because Quincy was going hard, okay?
Yeah.
He was not.
I think maybe he was
win.
trying, like at the beginning, he was trying to convince himself that he needed to win. Like he was trying to convince himself he wasn't still in love with her too. But
That's
then
a beautiful way to think of that.
That's some bullshit. Not your thought process, because you're a beautiful, sparkly angel mermaid, and I love you. But this fool and his bullshit and his pride and his toxic masculinity and everything. And I'm like wondering if they had to say that he tore his ACL for her to even be able to compete with him. Like, I just,
I think that they were both playing like as best to their capabilities as they would, and because they're both competitive in that sport, and it's both a sport that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
I noted that this game, this last one-on-one, reminded me of a tango. And it reminded me of this like slow, it starts off slow and seductive, and then you get this like quick fast move dance off.
Yeah.
And it was almost as if this is like the arc of the story, right? And I liked this scene the best out of all the time that they played basketball, even the striptease in college. But because I think they're both playing hard to either, like, because they're stubborn and they want to prove a point. But you're right. He could have just said, no, that's dumb. I'm moving on. I'm sorry, but I'm moving on with my life.
Yeah.
And but so there's a piece of him that's
or he
not
could have just
over
been
it.
like, you don't have to play me. Like, fuck yeah.
Let's
fuck
do
Kyla.
this. Yeah.
I do like she's like taunting him. She's like, oh, what, your knee hurt? Where's the D? You sleepy? Like she's like taunting him at first.
She was asking for him to play better. So like,
yeah, which was a great comparison to how the other girl was like coddling him. She will always push him to be the best version of himself.
But then at the
Ooh.
same time, she pulled out all the stops, took that jersey off, so she was just playing in her sports bra to
Yeah.
make sure he knew
Yeah.
what he was missing out on.
Well, he
And can
already
we
told her that he couldn't find her titties before, so I don't know if that was taunting her or not. So
Oh my God. But can we talk about the song too that's going on? Because it just
you make
adds.
so
Yes.
my little sister is watching it with me, and she's like, "This song," because he is making a fool out of her. Jesus, yeah,
Yes. It just adds to like the tension and like the heightenedness of what they're playing for. And it's just like, so much emotion in a basketball scene.
They're playing to 5. It's tied 4-4, and he makes the final shot, and he says, "It's all fair in love and basketball, right?" And so she starts walking away. She grabs her stuff. She starts walking back to her house, and he says, "Hey, double or nothing."
Oh boy. And then we see that Monica
I did-
is what?
Sorry, I did write, "Who gonna tell Kyra?"
I would have burned all his
Right.
shit to the ground like in Waiting to Exhale. There's no
I'll
way.
smash the window at your car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not 2 weeks before the wedding. Not 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
That's devastating.
She probably didn't even realize who Monica was either. She's
Yeah.
like, the girl in the hospital room. I didn't see anyone in the hospital.
That's awful. I would like to see a spin-off movie of just her dealing with that shit.
The fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like angry on a flight. Like, here's your Coke. I didn't order Coke. I asked for, I don't care. Okay. I just got broken up with. Like, she's just hysterical.
That's
I was supposed to be a sports wife.
Yeah. Then we see Monica playing for the WNBA, and she's got that real 2000s, 90s wonderful clip-on ponytail. You can tell with that swing, love it.
And the little bump at the end.
The bump, yep. And then you've got Quincy in the
And
stands
you see Magic Johnson in the audience
and his
Oh.
wife.
So
Cookie.
like her idol
Comes
is
full
now
circle,
watching
baby.
her play in the WNBA, and then on the back of her jersey, her last name's hyphenated.
Nice.
Right, McCall.
Yeah.
And then we see Quincy and their daughter.
So
Assuming,
cute.
And
he's
she
like,
gets
"Say
to be
hi,
number
Mom."
32, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and also Lisa Leslie. I mean,
What?
importante. She's like a super duper star in the WNBA at that time. So
And that's love and basketball, ladies.
yes.
Hey.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so this is one of my sister-in-law's favorite movies. Her other favorite movie is Just Right, which she says she feels like is the sequel to Love and Basketball.
Who did
Oh.
the same lady write it?
No, she just feels like it parallels in some of the. I didn't ask her to elaborate.
It's Queen
so
Latifah
that-
in Common, I
Right.
believe.
Yeah,
he's
and
a
he
basketball player.
plays basketball, and she
Mhm.
doesn't.
Yeah, she's a fan who looks up on falling in love with the star player.
So I
That's
guess there's
that one.
parallels.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that.
So, movie facts we missed. Sanaa Lathan said that our basketball tryout was terrible because she had never played before. And she said it was so embarrassing because literally I did not know how to dribble. I didn't know how to hold the ball, but I'm proud of how it looks in the movie. I had no idea I would be able to do that. So, yay for her.
And she's very sports adverse still because of her audition process. Like,
oh wow.
it scarred her. Poor baby.
I could only imagine.
The director Gina Prince-Bythewood's script sparked a bidding war at a reading at the Sundance Institute, with Spike Lee's production company 40 Acres and a Mule winning out. So that's awesome. So Spike Lee was a producer on this.
Omar Epps and Sanaa Lathan starred together the year before in The Wood.
They weren't love interests, but they were the grown-up versions of the kids in that movie.
Yeah.
That's another great one.
An original draft of the script had Quincy break up Monica's wedding, but after reading the script at Sundance, Bythewood was told that it would be more progressive for Monica to fight for Quincy.
I'm sorry. What?
What?
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
I wouldn't say progressive, but I mean, it would have definitely been way too stereotypical of like, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Quincy like is dribbling the basketball in the back, like something to
Coming
say
down
about
the aisle.
Glad they didn't go that route, but progressive is a stretch.
I think
Yeah.
they meant that like her character was so progressive the whole way. So
Mhm.
they feel like that would be very stereotypical of like how most rom-coms end, instead of this was, I feel, more in line of her character. But I just think I just don't like that she's fighting for this man who is still not apologized to her.
Mhm.
It just don't sit right with my heart. But you
Yeah.
know, that's just me. Maybe that's why I'm still single. So hey.
Right. So little we would like to put up with. Do I really want to play basketball? I mean, I could be in bed right now.
Yeah. Studios gave feedback that the film was too soft, that they needed scenes where a character is chasing her husband with a knife when shopping around the strip. So this was before a New Line and
40 Acres
Spike,
Manual.
picked it up. So this is the feedback she was getting, which is very stereotypical.
Mhm.
You know, I'm sure when Quincy's mom found out, they thought there would be like a scene where there's a Black woman very angry and she's trying to kill her husband or whatever. And that's not what happened. And
Or like
Yeah.
physical violence in
Yeah.
some fashion.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like this movie too is so groundbreaking in terms of Black movies, in terms of breaking like a lot of stereotypes. Like you mentioned before that a lot of early 90s movies were very like violent and stuff. And like, I mean, you think about movies like Boys in the Hood and stuff like that. And that was very much on trend at the time.
Mhm.
And this movie is like about suburban kids who like to play basketball. Like even He Got Game, like Jesus Shuttlesworth is a kid from the projects. His dad is in jail. Like he's trying to make something out of nothing, and is a typical kind of basketball story of like everything's riding on him making it. And these kids, they just love basketball. That's it.
Mhm.
That's
And
the
they-
only reason they play.
And
They both come from nuclear families.
Yes.
They're in an upper class neighborhood. They don't have the typical struggle that a lot of early
And-
90s movies
and
had.
this launched like in the 2000s. This is when you saw a lot of Black movies where
Mhm.
you saw Black people in careers, they had money, you know, very in mirroring what was actually really happening in the country, because not all of us were, you know, in that situation where we weren't, you know, we were constantly in danger of getting killed and dealing with drugs and all sorts of stuff. It is a part of the Black experience for some people, but this was showcasing another side to it, and it launched so many other movies like it. You know, we saw The Best Man, where all of them are, you know, in very
Writers,
prestigious,
PR,
they're in really good careers, and they're just living the normal life, but happen to be Black, which I think the golden time of Black Hollywood in some ways.
It's like a Black Renaissance.
Yes.
Because like, of course, Black people are fortunate amongst people of color to really have a good foot in Hollywood, but we still have a lot to fight against and for. And this was definitely a moment in time where we shifted from like, again, those kinds of stereotypes to being able to show other viewpoints and pathways. Like, again, like you said, The Best Man, things like Brown Sugar, where you have two people who are a journalist and a music executive. Like that shit's possible. Like we can do that stuff. And we were doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we too, I always see on Black Twitter, like we're tired of seeing slave movies or struggle love and stuff like that, and we just want to see more of that again. And I think that's coming from a lot of millennials who grew up seeing movies like this and miss that. I don't want to always watch some sad like struggle reminder that it's hard out here, like, and I want to be able to see people that look like me just chilling or living their best life.
And I don't want to just see comedies, you know, outlandish comedies they're not rooted into things that I know in my life. So last year, every studio rejected the script until they got the table read at Sundance. The director, Gina Prince-Bythewood, quit her job in television to write the script, which she was writing for like A Different World and I think another show, South Central at the time. So that was
J-Lo
a huge
connection.
And Lathan said that she was miserable during the early stages of the shoot because the director insisted that she train up to 6 days a week, but couldn't forge a love connection with the basketball. You know, she wasn't having that feeling about the game.
Lots of basketball, not a lot of love.
Yeah.
So the director has a small cameo, and she is actually playing against Monica when she's at USC. And so she says that her thing was to dive on the floor for the ball against Sanaa, but it took 13 takes because I kept beating her to the ball and I could not get the ball. So my knees were jacked by the end of the day. So she was out balling her star.
There's that competitive spirit.
She need to take a seat. She was being too much.
To take a seat.
Like 13 takes, like really after like take 5,
being a little too
it
extra. Like I understand competitiveness, but that's ridiculous. Like you're out here trying to make your star a fool.
She probably wanted it to look real, but it's like
Jesus,
no one would have been
break.
like, oh, she could have beat her to that ball.
She had to have known that like 90% of the people seeing this movie were women, and like a very small percentage of us actually know what the hell's going on in the basketball.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so let's do our ratings now that we've gone through the movie. I'll start with you, Simone. What did you think?
So my current day rating would still be a 5-day rental. I definitely would watch it again. And I would like to rewatch a lot of it. I guess now, definitely after talking about it, there's, I think, some things that I might have missed because half the fun of me watching this was enjoying this experience with Bria. And I was sneaking kind of watches and glances at her because we were like FaceTiming on our personal devices and then just tried to like 3, 2, 1 play like our movies on the TV, and I would look over at her every now and again and just see her mouthing lines, and for me it was just really fun watching it and also watching it through her eyes and her perspective and enjoying this together. So I would still rent this and watch it again. The only reason why I'm not keeping it as a movie of my own is because Quincy just couldn't get past his issues and fully celebrate and appreciate and support Monica. And to me, that would have been more of a well-rounded movie if he had this like coming realization in his character story where he can be like, oh, you know what? It really isn't all about me, even though I try and push that and deflect that onto Monica of like, you think the earth and the sun and the moon revolves around you. Because that's his mental attitude.
How about you, Bria?
I'm still would buy it. This time I got to pay for it myself, I guess. I was this close to buying a Monica Wright jersey on Amazon, so I'm very much still in love with this movie. I will say though, Simone, I do think Quincy has that realization. It's just probably poorly actualized because I think him being on the sideline cheering her on when she is in the WNBA is supposed to be kind of that moment, but I think it would have been beneficial for him to verbalize that for many different reasons.
Yes.
Jackie?
I'm going to go 5-day rental. It was very enjoyable and it has a lot of really interesting moments, like you said, just a different point of view and a narrative that we don't get to experience that often. So
yeah, would buy it again, whatever. Still one of my favorite movies. I know for me, it's a lot of it is nostalgia, because of when I saw it, but also it's just a really quality movie. The soundtrack is good, the actors are amazing, and I always just love a movie that is great representation. Yeah, it's a quality movie. I even hate to call it a Black movie. I just think it's a great movie in general. So I'm glad. And if you've never seen this movie before, I would highly recommend you check it out and give us your feedback of what you think. Was Quincy a fuckboy like we say? Or was Monica self-absorbed? I don't know. But let us know. As always, you can hit us up on our social media platforms at No More Late Fees on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you want to support this podcast, please be very free to join us on our Patreon page, where you can get bonus features that don't make it to the podcast or to social. You can get wonderful No More Late Fees stickers, join our lives when we are doing other movies and watching them live and see Jackie and I's reactions to them, and just get some additional feedback on our wonderful guests and even Spotify playlists. Before we say goodbye, we'd love for our pod pals, Simone and Bria from the Roll Call podcast, to tell us how you guys can follow them along on their journey as they go through Jennifer Lopez, all of her movies, her entire collection.
So you can find us at Roll Call Pod. That's ROLECALLPOD on all of our social media outlets, which is Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. And reach us, interact with our page. We're new in the realm of podcasting, but I mean, the JLo fans have been really nice to us so far, so we've appreciated everyone who's allowed us some grace, and we're just having so much fun. So thank you all to your support.
It's a great
Thank you
show
for having us.
yeah,
Oh,
thank you
no.
so much.
Thank you so much for
coming
coming
on.
Yeah, and we're excited to have you on our podcast.
Yay, we can't wait. Before we really sign off, I'm going to shout out one of our podcast's Patreon besties, Shannon. Again, it is her birthday, and we just want to thank her for all of her support and her wonderful feedback. Sometimes, no, just kidding.
Shannon 100% commits.
She does.
And so, like, as soon as she signed up as a Patreon bestie, she was like sending us private messages, because we do Ask Me Anything. She's like, okay, what about this, and what about this, and what about this? And we're like, okay.
The feedback, we love it. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. As you always tell me, you are a blessing to my life.
And if you have any feedback, want to start a discussion, have any suggestions, video store stories, you can always hit us up at our Google Voice quick drop 909-601 NMLF 909-601-6653, and you could be featured on a future episode.
Yay!
Cool.
Well, stay tuned for next week. We have a really fun movie for you guys. We are doing Scary Movie. Yay!
Yay.
I was like, what scary movie?
That's a scary movie.
I love it.
And as always,
Be kind and rewind.